What's up guys, Larry the Lunker here. There's a little tutorial on how to tie these Euro jigs, kind of caddis style pattern. Been super effective for me in the driftless area in southeast Minnesota, western Wisconsin for trout. Kind of a good caddis pattern. I'm using a size 12 barbless jig hook from Umpqua. Super strong hook for me. I haven't really bent any of these on fish. I'm pretty confident in them. Using a 1/8 inch copper disco bead. These are tungsten slotted. Perfect for the jigs. We're using a fire orange 6/0 thread. Just gonna go ahead and start by getting that bead on there, getting the thread started. Anytime I tie these Euro jigs, I like pinching the bead up top when I get the thread going. I'm just giving it a few wraps just to lock that bead into place and make my way down to the hook point. For the tailing on this fly, I'm using some Coke de Leon. Super good tailing material. This happens to be some whiting tailing pack. Got enough in here to last hundreds of thousands of flies. Well worth the investment. Just pinch off about 8 or so strands. Tie that in just with about 3 loose thread wraps. That way it's easy to adjust the length. I usually like to go about the length of the body is what I want the tail to be at. Once I get it to the right length, I'll give it 3 or 4 tighter wraps while holding that in place to keep it from wrapping over the backside. I'll do a loose wrap underneath it and slide that thread back up with my fingernail. Locks it into place, gets that tail to pop up. Lock all that in. Trim off the excess. Then I want to make a tapered body for this fly. So just work my way up and down the fly, making that taper happen. My way down towards the hook point. I'm going to tie in some hollow tinsel. This is chartreuse. Only cut about 3 or 4 inches what you need for this fly. Just grab the end of that and tie that in. I'm not going to go all the way to the tail, because if I do, when I go to wrap the tinsel, it sometimes likes to wrap over the tail and pinch that down, which is not what I want. So just leave about a couple millimeters or about a tinsel length at the end, and then work my way back up, tying that in, keeping the taper of this body going. Now I'm just gonna do some wraps with the tinsel, make sure I cover up that orange on the tail, because we want a hot head, not a hot butt on this fly. Just gonna do some wraps all the way up. Once I get up to the head of the fly, just tie that off. Once I get a couple tight wraps, do a couple more, and then I'll go a couple more in front of it just to lock that into place. Go ahead and trim off the excess. Now I'm gonna do some Loon UV clear fly finish on this. A little bit goes a long way with this. Knowing that I only have a few wraps holding that tinsel in, I'm not really gonna go fully around with this rotary vise, but just enough to get that UV on all of the fly. Take a bodkin, get rid of any bubbles, and kind of spread that resin out nice and even. It's important that you kind of keep this moving once you get it to where you want to be. That way you don't get the UV resin more on one side than the other, and just cure that. 15 seconds will do it. Just make sure that's nice and cured. Notice I didn't get any UV resin up on the top where the thread is. That's just because if I do that, when I go to do the dubbing, it tends to slip down if you do UV up on the thread as well. And just keeping the UV off that allows the dubbing to stick to that thread a little bit better and stay at the head of the fly. So now I will just coat the thread with a little bit of Orbis dubbing wax. You don't have to use this, it just makes your life a little bit easier. Using a Ice Dub UV Shrimp Pink. Again, a little bit with this stuff goes a long way. Don't need much of it, just a little pinch. Twist that into a little dubbing noodle under your thread. Slide that up to the top. Wrap that around, give about 3 or 4 other thread wraps at the top of that. Whip finish. Put 4 or 5 turns on that. Tighten that down. I just use crazy glue. It's been working for me forever. Super strong. No need to buy crazy head cement. This is like $2 at your craft store. Just hit the thread with that, and that is it. Again, super effective caddis pattern anytime you're nymphing. Any trout stream that has caddis in it, you need something to get down there. Anything green is working. This has been super effective for me. That UV shrimp really adds a lot with that disco tungsten bead. You're getting down there. Yeah, hit the link in my profile if you're interested in purchasing any of these. $2 a fly. Super effective. Hope you liked what you saw. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks a lot.